Hello, my name is Kim Humphrey, and I'm the CEO of Parents of Addicted Loved Ones. And we're actually back again with Josh Acevedo. We really appreciate you being here. Josh is a licensed substance abuse counselor, as well as the owner of a treatment program that works with particularly young people, teens, and college-age individuals. And having been working on this for many, many years, you have had a lot of experience with families and obviously from the treatment side as well. I want to ask you about this because, my wife and I continue to facilitate PAL meetings, and on a regular basis, we have parents that come in and they're really angry. I mean, sometimes, we certainly get the ones that come in and they're crying and they're sad and they don't know what to do. But a lot of times they're really, really mad, and they're really mad at their son or daughter. And maybe you could talk about that. I'm guessing you've seen that too, and maybe you could talk a little bit about why and maybe what we can do in thinking about that.
Absolutely. I hear the same thing again almost every week. I'll hear a family come in and they're distraught and angry about what's been going on. And I've never faulted them for it. It's one of the things we know is it's okay to be angry. You're in a situation that is powerless and stressful and difficult to deal with. And one of the things that happens with parents is they've raised these children. So if a parent is coming in to a PAL meeting or coming in to see me and bringing their kid in, or even if their kid's not with them, they're reaching out for help. They've hit a point where a lot has gone on. And a lot of times what they've seen is they'll go, here's this kid that I have raised, that I taught right from wrong, that I've loved, that I've dumped energy into, that I hoped would grow up and be happy and move out of the house and have all the things that we want him to have. And somewhere along the way, the kid started using drugs and changed the rules of engagement. So you have this person you've dumped all of your love into. There's nobody we love like our children, right? I mean, I've never met a parent that wouldn't easily swap with their child, standing in front of a train. That is in our nature to do that and to love them that way. And so you invest and you give, and you find a kid that starts using drugs, and the addiction starts to change their behavior, and they're taking drugs, they're changing the way they're reacting. And so they start to do things that the parent's not ready for. No parent ever expects their kid to lie to them. So that starts to build, and then maybe they steal something, they hide. And so there's this major betrayal of the relationship, a breach of a trust in a really, important relationship in your life. And so there's a lot of hurt there. And that hurt builds up over time a lot of times, especially if the person's been using drugs for years. If this has gone on for 3, 4, 5, 10 years, there's a lot of these small and sometimes very large betrayals that build up. There's a real lack of trust, and there's a total change in what the parent was hoping for. A lot of times I'll come in and parents like, I'm, having to let go of what I thought the whole next 10 years of my life were going to look like. I thought we were going to be touring colleges, and I'm picking them up from arrests. And so there's a lot there that they're having to adjust to, and that hurt a lot of times, I think, transfers into anger. Is from the way that their son or daughter has been acting that's hurting them. It turns, and also fear, I think, can create a lot of anger when you feel really powerless. It gives you a little bit of a sense of having a little bit more control, but I think most of it comes from that hurt. One of the things I always tell parents, it's okay to be angry. You've not been treated well. A lot of times you've, even sometimes the parents participated in it and not allowed themselves to be treated well. And some of that anger sometimes is even kind of turned inward. It's how did we get here where this is going on, where I'm having these fights in my home, or I'm giving away money that I know that I shouldn't give, and I know that it's being used for alcohol or drugs, and I'm being talked into it, or I'm trying to reason with and connect with this person, that my child, I love them, and I'm getting nothing on the other end. And that can just be terribly frustrating. And so that's one of the things is that it's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to vocalize that. Getting help and finding out that you're not alone and getting with some other parents is usually where that can start to dissipate. Just vocalizing it alone starts to help parents get a little bit of relief. And then sometimes just getting that validation is what you've been through is difficult. This is not easy to go through. And to get validation, a lot of times what I do, both as an addict in recovery myself and as a counselor, is to go, yes, the way that a lot of us behave when we're out there using is terrible. You've been treated poorly, and it's okay to acknowledge that. Because sometimes I think that they feel like they shouldn't acknowledge that because it's their kid, you know. But I think the validation goes a really long way, knowing that they're not alone, and that it starts to begin to cope with it. The other thing that helps a lot is once they understand addiction and a lot of the behavior is not personal, that helps to get over it. That helps. That doesn't ease everything that they've done, and it never renders the substance user, free from accountability for their behavior. But it does, I think, help parents sometimes to go, this is not about me. This is somebody who's got their brain, their entire life is hijacked by these chemicals. And the more that they learn to understand that, they can see where the young person is coming from, but also they can start to change how they're reacting to it. Because sometimes I get parents who have come in and have acted from that anger, and so they feel guilty about that. They go, my son stole something, and I didn't speak to him for the next 2 months while he was on the streets, and I felt guilty that he felt abandoned. Or they'll go through things that they did that I never saw myself acting this way. I've had moms tell me, I drove my son to pick up drugs. I don't know how I got talked into that. Because as the addiction develops, as the disease continues to develop, everybody that's involved, the term that I use is that the whole family gets sick. It's a family disease. And so the parents find themselves going, now I'm saying and doing things that I regret too. How did I end up doing this? Again, when you're emotionally on your heels all the time, if you're in fight or flight a lot, which addicts are great at putting parents in that position, it's much easier to manipulate somebody to get what you want when they're on their heels emotionally. So that is something that alcoholics and addicts are notorious for, is let me put you on your heels. Let me fight about something that doesn't matter. Let me hang you up on details when you're confronting me. Let me push you into a situation where you're in such fight or flight. And especially if you say something you regret. If you say, I've heard parents say, I told my kid I hate him. I never meant that. But in that moment, they were so angry, they said something like that, followed by the kid going, how could you? And then give me $50. And the mom gives the $50 and the kid's back out using again. They go, how did that happen?
Yeah. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you and I'm going back in time and I'm just remembering, being at points like we started with. I was very angry, and I was angry at them, and I would start lecturing, and I would start trying to, fix a situation that I had no control over, and then I would get frustrated. But then I was also getting angry at myself, because that's exactly what I would do. I would just start down this road and I would be like, oh my gosh, it's my fault. And then I would, say something, and then they would take advantage of what I just said. And then the next thing you know, we're caving in and thinking, well, at least we calm the situation down. And in the meantime, I walk away realizing later, oh my gosh, we just handed somebody with this issue cash. And you're thinking, anybody on the outside is looking in and saying, why would you ever do that? And yet, if we go back to what you talked about, that special relationship that you have with your kids, it will make you do things. And I say make you allow it to, which is what I've learned, is that I do things and I did things that I really wish, in retrospect, that I had really had more education and had more support so that I could make better decisions. And I think that's really what we're getting to, right? Is that's what we want to do. If we come in and they're angry, where do you want that to end? What do you want this to end up really being about?
You want it to end up, I think, to where the parent feels good about their response to their young person, no matter what they do. If they sober up, if they don't sober up, if they find recovery or they don't. I have seen parents find peace time and time again by going, we're responding well. We are no longer biting some of those hooks that are thrown out. We're no longer saying things that we regret. We're no longer stuck in major emotional distress. You're never going to like it if I've never met a parent that likes it if their kid doesn't find recovery, but they find peace that they have done their part and that they're able to maintain their side of a good relationship and not participate in the disease and those behaviors. And they get free of that emotional hostage situation. I think that term is really important. I didn't use it. That's when things that you're emotional hostage in that situation. You described it in that relationship. If they care less because they're on drugs, somebody who's inebriated doesn't care as much. They're able to manipulate. And so when a parent can realize that and go, I don't have to be manipulated. You said, I don't have to choose to go with it. Even if my son or daughter isn't going to play by the normal rules of engagement in a relationship, respect and honesty. If they're going to change that, I'm not going to change. I'm going to deal in respect and honesty and love, and you're going to have to make your decisions.
Well, it keeps going back around to education, learning and understanding why this is happening, and then it gives us an opportunity to make the changes, hopefully healthy changes. So again, thank you so much for talking about this, and we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.